Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with historythroughcards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. So I want to tell you about my Billy Williams rookie story. And I actually do have a couple of Billy Williams cards here as well that I'm going to show you. So this goes back a number of years when I'm in my teens. And I used to go to a lot of live auctions, the Halls Nostalgia Tuesday night auctions. I used to go to all the time. And I'm a young kid. I'm in my teens, and I see all these amazing vintage cards, and I went around the room and I kind of like took some notes as to what I wanted. Always try to bid on, and so a lot of times I'd just get smoked, but sometimes I'd get really lucky. And actually, the longer I went to these auctions, the better off I did. And partly because we all kind of got to know each other as collectors, and there are certain collectors I knew not to bid against, and then others like we all kind of like knew each other after a while, so it got better, and we'd all kind of like get together sometimes and say, "Hey, what are you after? What are you after?" And if there was a collector there that knew that I wanted something, they wouldn't uh, hold their hand up, or if I knew that a collector wanted something, I wouldn't hold my hand up. So after a while, it got really to the point where you could buy some really nice vintage stuff that normally would be pretty expensive, especially today. So at one point, I had my eye set on a Billy Williams rookie from 1961, the 61 tops, and I had done some research on Billy Williams, and I was really impressed by his career. I didn't see Billy Williams play, but I thought that I'm like, this guy is awesome. I wish I had seen him play, and so I I'm there and I see the Billy Williams rookie, and I'm like, that's mine. I gotta grab it. I'm really excited, and I raised my hand, and there was another bidder, and so we had a bidding war going on, and I got the card. Now the problem was that I overpaid. So I paid about $40 for this card, and the corners were pretty well rounded, and there was some creasing and some snow on the card. So it wasn't a very good looking card, and I immediately regretted it. And so here I now have a good condition Billy Williams rookie, which initially I liked, and I forget exactly what the minimum bid was. It wasn't much, so probably like $10. So a $10 card turned into a $40 disaster, plus the 30% and all the other nonsense that goes along with uh, auction houses. So now I have this card, and I have this pit at the bottom of my stomach because I knew I paid too much for a card that I shouldn't have. And I overheard a few of my friends saying, I paid too much for that. And I felt really bad. And so um, I actually kind of wish that I had someone there to say, hey, wait a minute, kid. That's not a good deal. Don't do it. Like, I didn't have that. And so, like, and I've told you guys in the past that like I did actually have a couple of really good older dealers that kind of like took me under their wing. Although that was a little bit later on. This is actually afterwards. So I made a couple of really bad novice or rookie mistakes when I was first getting into vintage, and this is one of them. So now that I have this card, and I'm like, I got to get rid of this. I can't even stand the sight of it, and it just every time I look at the card, I'd get more and more mad at what I did, and so I stuffed it in a box, and it was a couple of years before I looked at it again, because every time I think about it, I just would think about how I got ripped off and I did it on my own, and I didn't really do a whole lot of research into what this card was supposed to go for, and or I just kind of forgot. I didn't go with my gut feeling, so that happens a lot too, and I always try to go with my gut feeling, and I think a lot of people kind of like they brush it off. They brush that feeling off, and they don't go with their gut. Now, I eventually did sell this card a couple of years later, but the damage was done. And I still like Billy Williams as a player and even as a person. And today I want to tell you how I remedied that situation. And it took decades, in fact, to uh, go back and kind of like redo this. This was something that I think everyone kind of needs to go through at first. But again, like I say, I am a really big fan of Billy Williams, and I have a really neat article that I want to share with you guys as well. And before I get to that article, I want to show you a couple of Billy Williams cards that I actually did pick up. Uh, and so I have the 62. So if you guys can see that right there, down where it says Topps 61 All-Star Rookie, it has a little bit of a an issue, some paper loss, and then the corners and the sides of it are not good. But I am going to actually upgrade if I can. I love this card. This is a fantastic card. So the dealer said this was EX Mint, and I got it for 20 bucks. But as you guys can see, it's clearly not an EX Mint card. I'm not as upset as I should be, probably because I paid 20 bucks for the card, and I will upgrade it at some point. I have no problem with that. I also have no problem with keeping this card as well, but I'll show you the back of it as well. If you guys haven't seen that, it looks like this. It's still, I think, a presentable card, but this is another one of the things that you have to watch out for, especially when you're dealing with eBay and dealers on eBay, because one man's EX Mint is another man's very good plus. So that's actually what happened here. And then again with the 62s, just be careful of the trimming because that does happen quite a bit with these. And you can line them up with another card too. I would just kind of be very careful with purchasing on eBay from a dealer that you're not familiar with. So again, I'm not as upset with the 62 as I should be. I understand the 62s quite a bit, in fact. And you know what? Let me show you something else that's related to the 62. And I think you're actually going to find it kind of interesting. So there's a kind of a strange crossover between the 1962 top set and the 1987 top set, which I always refer to as pigeons in a park. And they really were. I mean, these things were like everywhere. But in 1987, I really kind of liked this set, and I completed it with my dad, which is a great memory for me. And the interesting thing was one day at school, uh, two of my teachers were talking about the 1987 top set being molded after the 1962 top set because it was 25 years. And so apparently one of my teachers had read that in the paper, and I would love to find that article, but I thought that was really interesting. And my teacher apparently had collected baseball cards when he was a kid. So he had remembered this particular set and he was talking about it. And this is a set that my father would have collected as well. And so I was actually really glad when uh, the 1988 top set came out, but I couldn't get away from the 87 tops, and unfortunately my original set from '87 I got water damage, so I quit collecting modern cards around 1988 or so, and I didn't pick it up again until like 1991. Anyway, so I thought that was again pretty interesting, and I actually picked up that set or this set, and I also picked up this card as well. And this was actually the first card that I got in a pack, and I really thought this was awesome because again the future stars. BJ Surhoff actually had a really decent career as well. I had to get this card autographed as well because it's a memory for me. And again, I don't mind it. I really liked it. I loved it then, and I still like it now. So the '87 top set for me, it's a good memory, but it's also a bad memory as well. So getting back to Billy Williams here, I decided to pick up a bunch of his cards, and I wanted to show you the ones that I do have. I'm missing quite a number of them, but I am going to be doing a Billy Williams run, and I'll show you one of my favorites, and it's the '63 tops. And so I appreciate this set more now than I did as a kid. And for the record, I didn't really collect any 1960s cards because I thought they were cheap. But I'll show you the back of it, and it looks like this. Hopefully, there we go. So I thought Billy Williams had a really great career, and I also picked up the '65. So I really like that '65 tops. The uh, the set is a great set, great design, and I showed you the back in another video I did, but I might as well do it right now too. So look at that. Billy was the NL Rookie of the Year in 1961. This is the 1967. So I'll show you the back of the 1967 Topps Billy Williams. And the one thing that you guys might want to keep in mind if you're collecting 1967 Topps is that the backs of these cards can fade pretty easily. So especially around the corners, and they can turn a little bit like brown. And I also noticed that too with the 1963 Flair as well. I'm always kind of conscious about the backs of the cards, and I know a lot of people aren't. They don't really kind of care about the fronts, which are important, obviously, but I actually like the backs too. But again, the backs of these cards can fade pretty quickly or pretty easily. And you're also looking at a 50-plus-year-old card too. Sometimes I forget about that. And, sometimes I forget about how old these guys are, and because we're looking only at what they look like when the card was issued, and not today. And some of them have gone on to the Field of Dreams as well. So, I know in some ways these ball players they'll never die because they're on a card, and their image captures them as they were when they were playing, and it's always there. So um, those are my Billy Williams rookie cards. So those are my Billy Williams cards. The 1964 has eluded me, and the others I'm grabbing here and there, and I'm taking my time, and uh, this is the reason why, because of the story that I'm telling you today. And I always say, unless it's a very rare card, you can take your time with this. It's not a race. And this is the one thing I did not really understand when I was a kid, that card collecting is not a race. For the most part, you can take your time at it, study, and you should be okay. And again, if there's a card that you're not sure of, if you should purchase it or not, get a second opinion, or if all else fails, walk away. It's easy, and I didn't understand this when I was first collecting cards, and then it took a while for me to actually learn which cards were rare and which ones weren't. And for the most part, most 1950s and 1960s cards are not rare. But when you're new to this thing, you don't know that. And I was really quick. I was a little too quick. But let me get on to this article, and I'll wrap up with what happened with the 1961 Topps Billy Williams afterwards. So here we go. This is from the Boston Globe, July 26, 1987. Swinging into Hall of Fame, Billy Williams receives his due by Larry Whiteside, Cooperstown, New York. How sweet is it for Billy Williams? At long last, he will move from the shadows into baseball's eternal spotlight. The one-time sweet swinger of the Chicago Cubs is one of three players who will be inducted today into the Baseball Hall of Fame. There will be plenty of excitement when Jim "Catfish" Hunter caps his first ballot election, and much emotion when Ray Dandridge, a star of the Negro Leagues, is acknowledged for his election by the Veterans Committee. But when the name Billy Leo Williams is announced, don't be surprised if the first three men to lead the applause are Ernie Banks, Willie Mays, and Willie McCovey, all three members of the Hall. Banks and Williams were teammates at Chicago. Mays, McCovey, and Williams all grew up in Alabama and have been pulling for each other since their paths first crossed in the majors in the 1960s. Quote, "I'm extremely honored," said Williams. "Obviously, I played with Ernie and against Willie Mays, who were two of the greatest players of their times and deserving of all the praise that comes their way. The only regret I have is that I didn't get inducted last year with my hometown friend Willie McCovey, but I think things happen for a reason. By me going in this year, I think that is the reason. Williams, 49, is one of those players whose talents were more appreciated after his retirement. After coming up with Chicago in 1961 and winning the National League Rookie of the Year award, he was destined to spend the rest of his career as bridesmaid to Mr. Cub Banks and to his contemporaries whose team won pennants, while Chicago invented ways to lose them. The sweet swing made Williams a household word in Chicago. From 1969 through 1972, he was on a tear that forced the Cubs to make him their first $100,000 player. In 1970, he became the first National League player to play 1,000 consecutive games, which was extended to a then record 1,117 before he benched himself because, quote, "the streak had gone on long enough and it was time to end the pressure." He also batted .322 that year, fourth highest in the National League, collected 205 hits and 42 home runs, and drove in 129 runs. In 1972, Williams led the National League in batting, .333, and slugging percentage, .606. He had a career batting average of .290 with 426 home runs and 1,475 runs batted in. Yet he never was able to overcome the legend that surrounded Banks, who had been the MVP in 1958 and 1959, and he was a part of the greatest period of frustration in Cubs history. From 1969 to 1972, Chicago finished second three times and third once. In 1969, Chicago had a 60-37 record at the All-Star break and a 4.5-game lead before faltering down the stretch to the New York Mets, losing 29 of its last 46 games. I really felt that if we had won that year, recalled Williams, we would have had 4 to 5 years of great teams. The ball club was still young, but we just never got in that position. I'm grateful, however, that I got to play with guys like Banks, Jim Hickman, Don Kessinger, and Ron Santo. If you have a ball club with players like that, it really has a lot to do with an individual not only making the Hall of Fame, but also becoming a better ball player. I know I was a compliment to Ernie Banks, and he was a compliment to me. It was the same with Hickman and Santo. We had 4 guys who hit at least 20 home runs in 1969. That's how we did things, and that's how we got winning ball clubs. It was a good ball club. We enjoyed each other. Williams said his relationship with Banks has become very special over the years, despite what has been portrayed. In the 1960s, the two men bought a 16 mm camera and used it to perfect their timing and swings. Williams developed a textbook stroke that enabled him to hit the ball with power to all fields. "We've been great friends over the years," said Williams, who was one of the first blacks to come out of the Cubs farm system. When he was elected, he called me at 7:30 in the morning to tell me about it. I couldn't wait to talk to him when I heard the announcement that I had made it. Ernie was there in Chicago 6 years before Ron Santo and myself, and certainly he was deserving of all the praise he got. He was such a good ball player, but a bigger factor in what happened in those years was the Cubs playing good and finishing second or third all the time. I always felt what I should do was play my best. It was up to the writers to let people know how I was doing. Maybe I should have given them more controversy to write about, but I never felt comfortable popping off until I read how easy and effortless hitting was supposed to be for me. The truth is that I never stopped working at it. Williams played 16 of his 18 major league seasons for the Cubs, for whom he batted .292 and had 392 home runs. He was traded to Oakland in 1975 and spent his final 2 seasons just as a designated hitter, hitting just .244 and .211. His only postseason experience came in 1975 against the Red Sox in the American League playoffs. He went 0 for 8 in 2 games as a DH. Williams returned to the majors in 1983 as a coach with the Athletics. 2 years later, he returned to the Cubs. When anyone is asked about the man, they speak first of his textbook swing, which Williams still believes is the right tool for the game today. "Billy Williams was the best day in, day out hitter I ever saw," said Kessinger. "He didn't hit for just 1 or 2 days or 1 or 2 weeks. He hit all the time. His average might have been even higher if he hadn't played so many games in which he was hurt." Williams said he always practiced what he preached, and now he teaches it. "I hit the ball to all fields," he said. "I advocate as a hitting coach today, you must spread out the defense if you can. To do that, you have to stay back on the baseball. You've got to keep your stride down to a minimum. My philosophy was taking your hands back, making sure your weight was evenly balanced, and keeping your hips together. When you talk about Billy Williams, you were talking about consistency and durability. You take those 2 words and say, 'There's Billy Williams,' because that's what he did in the game of baseball, and that is why he is in the Hall of Fame." I've never actually met Billy Williams. I would love to do so and just kind of like shake his hand and say thank you very much. Um, the article kind of shows you what kind of guy Billy Williams is, not just as a ball player, but as a human being, as a person. Sometimes we kind of lose sight of that and we just see the ball player. But I thought that was a really great article, And getting back to the 1961 Topps Billy Williams rookie, now it took me years and in fact decades to want to get his rookie card again because I had such a bad experience with the initial card that I picked up when I was a kid, that I shied away from the card itself. And every time I'd think about it, I would just be like, oh, it was a lemon. I bought a lemon of a card, and it just made me angry. And so I stayed away from the card because of those bad memories. And actually, I'd love to hear if you guys have had similar experiences. In fact, that if there are any cards that you have purposely stayed away from or not bought because either you paid way too much money for it or something else that gave you like that pit in the bottom of your stomach. And you know that feeling when you pay too much or something bad happens, and you associate it with that particular item. In this case, it was a 61 Topps Billy Williams rookie. So I really didn't want that to be the case because I like Billy Williams as a ball player, although I've never seen him. I also like him as a human being as well. And I um I went and I bought a new Billy Williams rookie, and it is right here. Now it is a little off center, but that's fine for my purposes. So I think this is quite a nice looking card. I always did like this card quite a bit, and I like it even more now. The bad memories have kind of like gone away. Although, don't ever forget your mistakes and learn from them, as I have. And again, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.